Let's begin on Capitol Hill this morning, where Congress back in session. Several top priorities. Lawmakers are up against a September 30th deadline to keep the government funded. They're also facing a fight over the Jeffrey Epstein files, with members on both sides of the aisle calling for their release. CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion is live from inside Capitol Hill and joins me now to talk about it. So, Nikole, what are some of the key items of contention with this budget?
Well, it's not so much the budget itself. It really is more about the process. You know, just late last week, we saw the White House do what's called a pocket rescission to try to claw back about $5 billion in foreign aid. And that's on top of, you'll recall, that rescissions package that Congress passed just before the recess, which totaled about $9.4 billion. And those were additional cuts to foreign aid and public broadcasting. So that is not sitting well with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, because their argument is, look, Congress holds the power of the purse. And so if we pass these appropriations bills only to have the White House clawed back, it's kind of not, it's not a good faith exercise, right? So that is a concern both Democrats and Republicans have. Some Republicans even suggesting that this is unlawful in terms of this recent pocket rescission that the White House attempted. On top of that, though, you have a lot of concern with the, quote, big beautiful bill that Congress passed as well. Obviously, that was a Republican bill, but Democrats remain concerned about those cuts to Medicaid and SNAP and really feel that this could be an opportunity with respect to government funding to try to leverage, you know, some of those issues to try to maybe restore some of that funding, if you will. So there are a lot of issues that lawmakers have to resolve, and not a lot of time to do it, as is often the case. And so that's why this one could really come down to the wire.
Yeah. So let me ask you about something that the president would perhaps not have out there in the ether, but talk to me about how congressional lawmakers are trying to force a floor vote to release the Epstein files.
Yeah, well, this is coming in hot, as they say, you know, in the sense that a short time ago we heard from Kentucky Republican Tom Massey, who, along with California Democrat Ro Khanna, has been pushing this bipartisan resolution calling for the full release of the files related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Well, a short time ago, Massey said that he will file his discharge petition to try to force a vote on this issue. That discharge petition is usually a way for lawmakers to kind of go around the traditional process if they can get 218 signatures. So that is something, you know, we have heard from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, you know, clamoring for more information about this case. So if they get those signatures, then potentially we could see a vote.
All right. Nikole Killion for us on the Hill this morning. Thanks, Nikole. All right, now turning to the fight over President Trump's tariffs, that will likely head to the Supreme Court. This comes after a federal appeals court struck down many of the levies. CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand is at the White House with more on all this. So, Natalie, give us the background as to the court's reasoning and what happens next.
Yeah, well, as you said, what happens next is this will be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. Ultimately, the justices will decide this. Now, Friday's ruling did allow the tariffs to remain in place until mid-October to allow this legal process to play out. But ultimately, what that appeals court said is that the Trump administration went too far in announcing what the administration has called these reciprocal tariffs on dozens of trading partners as they've worked to make deals, cut deals with these countries, saying that, you know, justifying that through a national emergency is just overstepping the president's authority, and that the power of tariffs and taxes rests with Congress. Now, this ruling did not impact sector-specific tariffs. So when you think about the tariffs on things like steel and aluminum, just these reciprocal tariffs, but it certainly throws into question some of these newly negotiated deals as we wait for the eventual answer from the Supreme Court.
All right, let's talk about these former CDC directors that are slamming Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in a new op-ed, saying that he's, quote, endangering everyday Americans' health. What else do they have to say?
Yeah, this was a striking op-ed by these 9 former CDC directors, noting deep concern with recent cuts to staffing, also investment, saying that it makes the U.S. Quote, ill-prepared for future health emergencies. They also point to changes on the Vaccine Advisory Committee, accusing Secretary Kennedy, of replacing experts with what they call, quote, unqualified individuals who share his dangerous and unscientific views. CBS medical contributor Dr. Celine Gounder has been speaking to some of these CDC officials, including some of those who recently resigned. Here's more of what she had to say about their concerns.
Process matters. The scientific process matters. And that's how you know that you can actually trust what comes out of one of these committees at the end of the day. And so when the process is corrupted, when the way in which you submit data, the data is reviewed, vetted, made public ahead of one of these panel meetings, the fact that that is all being changed and turned over is a real problem.
Now, the Trump administration continues to defend Secretary Kennedy and his decisions. The White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller even called him a crown jewel of the administration, saying that he is working tirelessly to improve public health. Well, Secretary Kennedy is going to face these questions in person over on Capitol Hill when he gets grilled, perhaps by Democrats, at least on the Senate Finance Committee, and Republicans as well, who have raised concern. That hearing is happening Thursday. Now, changes to recommendations on the COVID vaccine also likely to come up, and President Trump, in a new social media post, is demanding that the pharmaceutical companies that created those drugs release data, noting some of the disagreement, saying that with the CDC, quote, being ripped apart over this question, he wants answers now. And Vlad, remember, it was Operation Warp Speed that really accelerated the development of those drugs during the first Trump administration.
Exactly. The president at the time, Donald J. Trump. Natalie, thank you very much as always. Appreciate you.